because there's also this additional layer of feeling a sense, not just of relief from anxiety, but also a closeness and a bond with a community of people who are all doing what you're
Right.
doing. And especially after you've
Right.
been locked at home for 2 years, you've been zooming everything in. Naturally, people who are social
Right.
creatures, human beings are social, they crave some sort of connection and belonging. And if all of that has been stripped away from them by force for 2 years, it's almost like sanding down a wood table. It's going to take whatever stain is poured on it. It's bare, it's raw. It just craves something to cover itself with. And so when you tell
Right.
people, well, look,
Right.
you've lost your community. You don't have AA anymore. You don't have clubs. Boy Scouts is gone. School is closed. Your job site is not reopened. But guess what? You can join people through an expression of your virtue and goodness by putting on a mask and gloves and standing 6 feet apart and using your elbows instead of your hands to shake and to say hello. And people say, thank goodness, now I have a meaning and a purpose I can fit in again. And they don't think, as you just said, and as Desmond often says, how crazy it is.
Yes, and the more he was saying that the more divorced it becomes from the evidentiary reality, the more they cling to it as a ritual way of signaling their participation. And so it becomes
Correct.
almost a like a religious ritual, or wearing a certain kind of religious clothing that signifies your participation. It really is. Well, let's ask this crazy question: do we need religion more in this country? Is that part of why another reason we fell victim to all this?
It's almost a rhetorical question. Consistently,
Yeah.
if you look at the communities in the US and outside the US, as I mentioned, the former Balkans, Slovakia versus, say, Czechoslovakia, which went completely hog wild into lockdowns, masks, and forced vaccinations, whereas Slovakia didn't. Same people, same language. What's the difference between those two countries? The difference is Slovakia is still largely Catholic and they still practice Catholicism. Czechoslovakia is completely secular. There's no religion left in that country. So whether you are pro or anti-religion or a believer or an atheist, I don't care. Just look at, as you said, the facts on the ground. Look at the comparison case studies, North and South, just like North Korea, South Korea, freedom versus communism. What's the end result? Some people are eating dirt to live. Other people are selling refrigerators and cars to us through IG. So I think it's very clear to me that when you look at the one group in the United States that largely speaking resisted this pandemic of fear, this indoctrination, that one group is the evangelical Christian community.
Hmm.
I think that says it all. And why is that? Because their focus is on family, their focus is on church, it's on community. It's not an obeisance to a higher authority of the government. They obey God, that's what they would say. So they don't fall prey to this sort of fear. And there's a very strong, I would call it an inoculation or vaccination effect of religious community, really any community, but certainly the religious community, that largely speaking protected themselves from this kind of incursion because they were not stripped like that wooden table. They were not shaved down. They still had their meaning. They still had their community. So when the crazy, talisman carrying army came by and said, put this around your neck and rub it for good luck, they said, we don't need that. We already have a God. We don't need yours. Go home.